You're constantly trying to become more confident, watch confidence videos, trying to act more confident, thinking you just need better clothes, more money, a different personality or a different body. Surely then you would feel enough. But nothing actually changes because you don't have a confidence issue. You have a weak sense of self, which is why you sometimes catch yourself copying and mimicking other people and call it being inspired. Whereas in reality, it's because you don't fully trust who you are, which is why you become a different version of yourself depending on who you're around, which is why you care more about how something looks from the outside rather than how it genuinely feels to you. And over time, you become so focused on being liked and accepted that you completely lose touch with what you think, feel, and believe. And the exhausting part is that every interaction starts to feel like performance instead of connection. Meanwhile, underneath all of this is the real version of you that is exhausted of performing just to be accepted by other people. So in this video, I want to talk about how to build a strong sense of self and truly change the way you see yourself, not temporarily, but for good. And if you're new here, I'm Jasmin, I'm a therapist, and I help people understand how their past shapes how they see themselves so they can build a strong sense of self and true self-esteem. If this is something you're interested in, subscribe. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to build a strong sense of self is because they're emotionally stuck in something that happened to them when they were younger. So let's say if as a child you experienced something painful, rejection, criticism, abandonment, abuse, and you don't fully process it and don't fully work through it, you're emotionally stuck in what happened to you. And I don't mean just in the memories, but in the emotions. So even as an adult, you feel helpless, you feel powerless, you feel like things are unfair. And subconsciously, you might wait for some sort of approval, protection, validation, or to be rescued. Because as children, you don't just depend on adults and other people to survive, for them to feed you, for them to, look after you, for them to make sure you're safe physically, but you also depend on them for your identity. So how you were treated as a child shapes your identity. If you were constantly criticized, you believe that something is wrong with me. If you were ignored, you believe that I don't matter. And if you only received love or attention when you performed, so let's say when you had really good grades or when you did something well, you learn that love has to be earned. So if you stay emotionally stuck in what happened to you when you were younger, you also stay emotionally stuck in that younger version of you, still waiting for other people to tell you who you are. So you subconsciously look to other people to tell you whether you're lovable or likable or whether you're worthy, whether you're good enough. And because you subconsciously depend on other people for your identity and for your worth, you constantly seek validation. So subconsciously you adapt and you change depending on who you're with just to receive validation. Because authenticity feels risky. What if you're your authentic self and people don't validate you? What does that say about you? What does it say about your worth? Because if they disapproved of you, that would mean that you're not enough. And when you're emotionally stuck in that younger version of yourself that still looks to other people to tell you who you are, you naturally also look to other people as a reflection of who you should be. Which takes us to our next point. Stop using other people as a reflection of who you should be. Another major sign of a weak sense of self is that you don't see people as just people, you see them as mirrors. Mirrors for who you should be, how you should act, what you should look like, what makes you valuable, what makes you enough. So admiration becomes comparison, you lose your own voice, and other people become your standard of how you should be. So when you do receive validation, it does feel good temporarily, but then you want more validation, more confirmation, more approval. And that validation becomes addictive because it doesn't really fill the cup, it doesn't fill the void. So you constantly need more for it to fill just enough. And when you do experience being rejected by someone or someone criticizing you or someone disapproving of you, it almost feels like it's completely shattering you emotionally because you don't experience it as someone has an opinion. You experience it as that confirms that something is wrong with me. So other people decide your worth, your value, your identity, your enoughness. And your emotional state constantly fluctuates on the feedback you receive from other people. So if someone seems off with you, you don't see it as maybe they're just having a bad day. You constantly see it as a reflection of you, which is why other people become your mirror. If they seem happy and friendly with you, it's a confirmation that you're good enough, that they like you. If they seem off, it automatically feels like some sort of confirmation that you're not enough or that something is wrong with you. So other people's opinions and reactions and your identity and worth become one, which is why you feel emotionally exhausted. because you can never feel truly stable when your sense of self is living in other people's hands instead of your own. And when you constantly use other people as a reflection of how you should be, you also start idealizing their lives. Which takes us to a third point. Stop expecting life to be easy and perfect. So as we said earlier, when you have a weak sense of self, you're emotionally stuck as a younger version of you. And you're trying to recover from your childhood emotionally. So if your childhood felt heavy, chaotic, unstable, or you had to grow up too fast, you now crave ease, softness, an effortless life, and perfection. Because the belief is, if I were enough, life would reflect that. So now you expect the perfect life, the perfect body, the perfect career, the perfect relationships. Because if it's not perfect, it's a confirmation and a reflection that you're not enough. So when challenges come up, conflict, rejection, disappointments, failure, uncertainty, it doesn't just feel difficult, it feels personal. Because again, these things are a reflection of your worth. Because it becomes proof that something is wrong with you, proof that you're failing, proof that you're not enough. And the belief is, if I was enough, life wouldn't be this hard. But life doesn't work that way. No meaningful and authentic relationship is easy all the time. No successful person avoids challenge, and no emotionally healthy person escapes difficulty. And one of the biggest signs of emotional maturity and a strong sense of self is learning to tolerate discomfort without collapsing into it. Because challenges are not proof that you're not good enough, or that you're making mistakes, or that you're failing. They're just proof that you're alive and that you're a human being living in this world. Another thing that happens when you're emotionally stuck in a younger version of yourself is that you keep a certain childlike naivety, which takes us to a fourth point. Stop believing everything you see. You know, before social media, we used to have real conversations all the time. We used to tell each other about what we're going through, our struggles, our fears, our challenges, even our disappointments. You know, we would provide context. It would be nuanced. We would speak about the good and the bad, the highlights and the challenges. And it would give us a real sense of reality. We would find that life moves through seasons. You know, some seasons are more difficult than others. Some seasons you're reaping, other seasons you're sowing. So you would get a real context of real life. Now, in the age of social media, we constantly just see highlight reels because that's the purpose of platforms. The purpose is to keep you on the platform. And in order to keep you on the platform and keep your attention, you're being shown the extremes, extreme beauty, extreme luxuries, extreme careers, extreme success, extreme transformations. Because if you were shown normal life, that would be boring. You could see that anywhere else. That wouldn't keep you on the platform. But when you constantly consume these things without discernment, you start believing that these things are normal. Because everyone online seems rich, successful, beautiful, happy. And your normal life starts to feel inadequate. It starts to feel like it's not enough. Because curated perception is not reality. And your lack of discernment creates comparison, fantasy, projection, insecurity, not enoughness. And you stop seeing people as human, and you start seeing them as proof that you're behind. And it doesn't actually matter how successful you are, how beautiful you are, how happy you are. You will always see something more extreme online. So even if you're the most successful person in your circle, when you go online, you still find people that are more successful than you, that are richer than you, that have more friends than you, that have stronger relationships than you. So whatever you have, it starts to feel inadequate. It starts to feel like it's not enough. You start to hide, which takes us to our next point. Stop hiding who you really are. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to build a strong sense of self is because they spend their life hiding their thoughts, hiding their feelings, hiding their opinions, hiding their personality, hiding their needs, hiding their authentic self. And because different people approve of different things, you become different versions of yourselves depending on who you're around. You become who other people accept, who you think they're comfortable with. And after years of doing that, you completely lose touch with who you actually are. And then people ask things like, how do I find myself? How do I know who I really am? But the thing is, you can't find yourself when you're constantly hiding. The way you find yourself is through expression, through honesty, through speaking, through decisions, through trying, through disagreeing, through being seen. So instead of constantly asking, what would they think? What would they do? How does this look? Start asking, how do I actually think? What do I really want? What feels authentic to me? What do I value regardless of what's popular or accepted? Alongside studying therapy, I also studied theology, and one parable that stood out to me the most is the parable of talents. For those who don't know, a talent in biblical times was essentially a form of money or currency. And in this parable, a master is about to leave on a journey. So he calls 3 servants to him. To one servant, he gives 1 talent. To the second servant, he gives 2 talents. And to the third servant, he gives 5 talents. Then he leaves. So the servants with the 2 and 5 talents, they go out, they use what they've been given, they risk it, they work with it, and they invest it. They use it. And eventually, they multiply it. The one with 2 turns it into 4. The one with 5 turns it into 10. But a servant with the 1 talent does something very different. He becomes afraid of making mistakes, afraid of failing, afraid of losing it, afraid of getting it wrong. So instead of risking it, he buries it, because hiding feels safer than failing. But when the master returns and he asks the servants what they did with what they were given, the first 2 proudly show what they created, but the third servant walks back with the exact same talent he was given in the beginning. Nothing multiplied, nothing created, nothing expressed. And the master is deeply displeased with him. And then something shocking happens. Even the 1 talent he still had was taken away from him and given to the one who multiplied theirs. And I think a lot of people live their lives exactly like that emotionally. They bury themselves, their voice, their gifts, their opinions, their creativity, their desires, their authentic self. Because hiding feels safer than risking rejection, safer than being seen, safer than making mistakes, safer than failing publicly, and safer than people seeing the real you and not approving of it. So instead of truly living, expressing yourself, creating, trying, speaking, becoming, you hide. And then you wonder why you feel empty, why you feel disconnected from yourself, why you don't know who you are, because you're not able to build a strong sense of self while constantly suppressing yourself. A strong sense of self is built through expression, through trying, through action, through decisions, through honesty, through being seen, through risking rejection, through allowing yourself to fully exist. And that's exactly why the servants who multiplied what they had were able to grow. Not because they were worthy or more special, and not even because they were guaranteed success, but because they were willing to engage with life rather than hiding from it. They risked things, they took action, they tolerated uncertainty. They accepted that growth comes with discomfort. And this is also why simply trying to stop negative patterns isn't actually enough. Even when you want to stop bad habits, you need to replace them with better ones. When you want to stop unhealthy patterns, you need to replace them with healthier patterns. To use a very simple example, if your whole focus was to stop going to McDonald's, you might find yourself at Burger King at some point, and you technically stopped, but nothing changed, your health hasn't improved, your diet hasn't improved, and you're still dealing with the same core issue. So just stopping something isn't enough. We need to replace it with something healthier. Once you stop the things we talked about earlier, what do you replace them with instead? How do you actually start building a strong sense of self? So now I'm going to walk you through what you should start doing to actually build a strong sense of self. The first point was stop living as a younger version of yourself and start stepping into your agency. I have a baby and he depends on me for everything. He depends on me to feed him, to put him to sleep, to change him. When he's uncomfortable in pain, he won't stop crying and he won't calm down unless I soothe him. So he literally depends on me for everything. And now imagine an adult sitting in a room and waiting. Waiting to be fed, waiting to be changed, waiting to be taken out, waiting to be soothed. And then someone comes in and says, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "I'm waiting and I can't believe no one's coming to help me. This is unacceptable. This is so unfair." And this is how a lot of us live emotionally and psychologically. We're waiting to be rescued. We're waiting for permission. We're waiting for validation. We're waiting for something external to change. And we completely forget that we have agency. We completely forget that we're capable and that we have the ability to act and that we don't actually need to wait for anyone. So start stepping into your agency. Take ownership for your decisions. Put yourself back into the driver's seat of your life. If you wait for conditions to be perfect, they will never be perfect because that's life. It will never be perfect. But your life only changes through action, through movement, through decisions, through your participation. You're not that helpless, powerless child anymore that you once were. You're a capable, functional human being. Everything you see other people do, you're able to do as well. One of my favorite quotes is, "Nothing human is alien to me." And the way I used to see it is that nothing another person has done or said or failed at or no mistake is alien to me. But another way of seeing this is that nothing another human being has achieved, become, created, built, healed from is alien to me either, because I'm just as human as they are. So there is nothing exceptional about you. Whatever you see someone else do, you can do as well. The second point was stop using other people as a reflection of who you should be and start focusing on who you want to be. When you have a weak sense of self, you become fully self-absorbed and self-abandoning at the same time. It's fascinating because everything other people say, do, respond, or react is somehow a reflection of you and your worth, but yet everything is about other people. What do they think? How do they feel? What do they approve of? How do they see me? So other people become mirrors of who you should be, how you should act, what you should look like. And I want you to completely reverse that. So other people's reactions, responses, opinions are a reflection of them, of how they're feeling, of what they're thinking, of what they're going through. And your focus to be finally on yourself. So instead of constantly asking, what do they think? How do they feel? What would they say? What would they do? Start asking, what do I think? How do I feel? What do I want to do? How do I want to respond? What feels authentic to me? You're not able to build a strong sense of self and your focus is constantly outsourced. So you need to get to know yourself, your thoughts, your opinions, your values, your desires, your instinct, your voice. Take the spotlight off everyone else and put it back on yourself and your own life. And other people's achievements are not a reflection that you're behind or incapable or not good enough. It's simply a reflection of their achievement, of their consistency, of their resilience, of their choices, of their ability to take agency of their own life. So learn from it instead of collapsing into comparison. Other people's abilities and achievements should just be a reflection of what's humanly possible for you too. So other people's rejection is a reflection of the choice, not your worth. Other people's disapproval is a reflection of their opinion, not your value. Other people's responses often says far more about them than they do about you. Your job is to stop making other people your mirror and finally start building a relationship with yourself. The third point was stop expecting life to be easy and perfect and start choosing your own challenges. One thing about life is that once you overcome one challenge, the next one is right at the corner. And if you're someone who embraces growth and wants to become the best version of themselves and fulfill the highest potential, that idea will excite you because in order to grow, you need challenge. But if you're someone who constantly wants comfort and ease, that idea will terrify you. The other thing I found about life is that you either choose your challenges or life will choose them for you. Choosing challenges intentionally means choosing discipline, means choosing better habits, means growing in an area of your life, means doing inner work. It means working towards your goals or towards the life that you want. It means stepping outside of your comfort zone. But if you're someone who avoids challenges at all costs and lives life passively, your mind might start creating unnecessary problems. Because humans need direction, they need purpose, they need movement. And when there is no meaningful challenge, small things start to feel emotionally huge. So a misunderstanding starts to take up your whole focus. A lack of response starts feeling devastating. Someone not liking or commenting on your post starts to matter. And someone's tone starts to ruin your day. And drama starts to become stimulating because you have nothing else going on. So subconsciously, you create conflict. Why did she say this? Why didn't he do this? Why was her tone off? Why didn't she like my picture? And a lot of times, people who constantly seek ease don't become peaceful. They become emotionally fragile because resilience is built through challenge. Confidence is built through challenge. A strong sense of self is built through challenge, not through avoiding discomfort. When you have goals, purpose, standards, discipline, and things bigger than your emotions occupying your life, you stop making every small reaction, response, misunderstanding, or inconvenience emotionally consume you because your life becomes bigger than your insecurities. Fourth point was stop believing everything you see online and start cutting out the noise. You know, sometimes the right step isn't doing more inner work. Sometimes it's exposure and sometimes it's completely cutting something off. So instead of constantly trying to compare less, to care less, to stop focusing on other people, to start focusing on yourself, to stop obsessing over other people, you just need to cut off the noise. Because you actually might spend more time consuming other people's lives than building your own. And sometimes the internal shift happens as a result of a decision you make, not before it. Sometimes the action comes before the inner work. So once you stop obsessing over others because you have no choice other than focus on your own life because there's nothing else distracting you or occupying your time and attention, you actually start losing interest in knowing what everyone else is doing. And you start learning that if you really care about someone, you actually make the time. You reach out, you call, you text, you make time for each other, you meet up. You actually ask each other what is going on and how they are, instead of knowing about someone just because you scrolled past them. So if you want to build a strong sense of self, your attention has to return back to yourself, back to your life, your growth, your purpose, your goals. So cut out the noise and become intentional about the life you're building. Fifth point, stop hiding and start using what you already have. I think one of the saddest things in life is that people don't realize the value of what they had until they wasted years hiding it. Similar to the person with the one talent, he probably looked at the other two and thought, they have 2 talents and 5 talents and I only have 1. What can I do with 1? That's not valuable. He focused on what he lacked and didn't see the value of what he had, so he buried it. And people do this all the time, practically or emotionally. They spend years believing they just need more confidence, more healing, more time, more money, more validation, more perfection before they can finally begin to live fully. So they wait for opportunities, they wait for something external to change. They subconsciously wait for someone to come and rescue them, for someone to come and show them the way. Meanwhile, life is already happening. Your current life is your life. This is not the rehearsal for some future life that you get in the future when you finally feel good enough. This is it. And I say this with love, but you're not going to magically become a different person with a different life, with more value and more worth than you're continuing to hide now. The servant with the one talent didn't use what he had, so he lost it. And that applies to real life as well. You use it or you lose it. And things grow only because they're being used. Confidence grows when being used. Skills grow when used. Identity grows when used. Opportunity grows when used. Sense of self grows when used. And what you bury weakens. That's why the servant lost even the one talent he had, because he didn't use it. Not because one talent wasn't valuable. He could have multiplied it into 2 or 4 or 10. And one thing that many people think is unfair is that the person who received the talent was the one who was given 5 and multiplied it into 10. And you might think, why would a master take away the one talent the servant had and give it to the one who already was given 5 and multiplied it into 10? Because he had the greatest responsibility. The more talents, the more responsibility. The more talents, the more risk. The more talents, the more potential to failure. The more talents you have, the more you have to lose. So he was rewarded because he embraced responsibility, because he took the risk, because he used what he had. And as a result, he not only multiplied what he had, but more was given to him. That's how real life works as well. This is not some philosophical or spiritual concept. Even at a job, when you do your job really well, when you embrace the responsibilities that you're given, what happens? You receive a promotion. What is a promotion? More responsibility. So people want a better life, more success, more freedom, more purpose, while simultaneously hiding, avoiding responsibility, avoiding rejection, avoiding discomfort, avoiding challenge, and avoiding failure. So stop waiting until you feel ready enough, good enough, confident enough, healed enough, perfect enough to participate in your own life. Because what you have right now is enough to begin with. And the longer you keep hiding your life, waiting to become enough first, the more life passes by unused. And that's what building a strong sense of self really is, to stop abandoning yourself. Stop waiting for permission, certainty, validation, perfection before you allow yourself to fully exist. Because the truth is, you don't become confident first before you start living. You become confident through living, which means expressing yourself, making decisions, taking responsibility, embracing challenge, stepping out of your comfort zone, showing up repeatedly as yourself. That's how a sense of self is built. Not through endlessly thinking about who you are or who you should be, but through participating in your own life fully. And if this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.